the rhino's guardian. The morning sun had barely touched the vast plains of Kruger National Park on March 12, 2015, when Zuri heard the gunshots. They cracked through the air like thunder, shattering the peace of dawn. She froze, her heart pounding against her ribs. As the senior wildlife ranger at Kruger National Park, she knew exactly what those sounds meant. Poachers. Zuri grabbed her radio. Position confirmed. Eastern sector. All units respond. Her voice remained steady despite the dread filling her chest. This wasn't her first encounter with poachers, but each one felt like a personal failure. The team assembled quickly. 5 rangers with determined faces and loaded rifles. They moved swiftly through the brush, following the vultures already circling overhead. The birds were nature's cruel messengers, signaling death below. The scene they discovered was one Zuri had witnessed too many times before. A female rhino lay motionless, her magnificent horn hacked away, leaving nothing but a bloody crater. The poachers had vanished, taking with them a treasure worth more than gold on the black market. "Too late," muttered Jamal, the youngest ranger. "Always too late." But then, a sound. Soft whimpering from the tall grass nearby. Zuri approached cautiously, pushing aside the golden blades to reveal a small, trembling figure. A baby rhino, no more than 2 months old, cowered in the shadows. Its dark eyes were wide with fear. Its tiny body pressed against the earth as if trying to disappear into it. "He's alive," Zuri whispered. She knelt slowly, feeling a flutter of hope amidst the devastation. "We haven't lost everything today." The calf's situation was dire. Without its mother's milk and protection, it would surely die within days. Orphaned rhinos rarely survived in the wild. As Zuri reached out her hand, the baby backed away, confused and frightened. "We'll call him Nkosi," she decided. "It means ruler in Zulu. One day he'll be strong again." Transporting Nkosi to the sanctuary proved challenging. He fought against the rangers with surprising strength for such a small creature. His eyes accused them, seeming to say, "You smell like the humans who took my mother." Zuri couldn't blame him for his distrust. At the Thula Thula Rhino Orphanage, Nkosi refused food for 3 days. He stood in the corner of his enclosure, his small body rigid with grief and fear. The caretakers took turns sitting beside him, speaking in soft voices. But the baby rhino remained unconvinced. "He's fading," the veterinarian warned Zuri on the 4th morning. "If he doesn't eat soon, we'll lose him." That night, as rain drummed against the roof of the sanctuary, Zuri stayed with Nkosi. She'd brought her sleeping bag and lay on the straw beside his enclosure. In the dim light, she began to tell him stories. About the Savannah where he was born, about other orphans who had survived, about his mother who had been magnificent and brave. "I know you're scared," she murmured. "I was scared too, when I lost my parents. I was only 10, younger than you in rhino years. I thought the world had ended." Through the darkness, Zuri felt Nkosi's attention shift. His breathing changed subtly. She continued talking, her voice barely above a whisper. "But then I found new family. Different, but still family. That's what we want to be for you, Nkosi, until you're ready to find your own way." When morning came, Zuri awoke to find Nkosi standing over her, his warm breath tickling her face. His eyes held less fear now, replaced by something like curiosity. When she offered the bottle of formula, his resistance crumbled. He drank desperately, having finally surrendered to his hunger. The months that followed transformed both Nkosi and his human guardians. The baby rhino grew stronger each day, his personality emerging from behind the wall of trauma. He loved mud baths and back scratches, charging playfully at the brushes used to clean his thick skin. He followed Zuri everywhere, his heavy footsteps creating a rhythm that matched her heartbeat. But life at the sanctuary wasn't without challenges. Funding remained scarce, and threats from poachers constant. One night, alarms blared through the compound. Armed men had cut through the fence, hunting for easy targets. The security team responded immediately, but in the chaos, Nkosi panicked. He crashed through his enclosure gate, disappearing into the darkness beyond. For 3 desperate days, search teams combed the surrounding bushland. Zuri barely slept, tormented by visions of Nkosi lost or captured. On the 4th morning, as hope began to fade, a local farmer called the sanctuary. "There's a young rhino in my cattle pond," he reported. "Scared my cows half to death." They found Nkosi submerged to his eyes in muddy water, stubborn and unharmed. When he saw Zuri, he emerged with unexpected speed, leaving a wake of splashing water water behind him. He stopped just short of her, his wet nose nudging her hand as if to say, "What took you so long?" As Nkosi's second birthday approached, the team faced a bittersweet milestone. He had grown into a healthy sub-adult, his horn beginning to form a proud curve. The sanctuary's purpose was rehabilitation and release, but returning Nkosi to the wild meant saying goodbye. "He's ready," the head ranger confirmed, though his voice held reluctance. "The protected Northern Reserve has a small breeding herd. He'll have the best chance there." On the day of Nkosi's release, Zuri rode in the transport vehicle, her hand resting on his sleeping form. The sedative would wear off once they reached the new territory, allowing him to wake in his rightful home. As the gates opened to the vast expanse of the reserve, Zuri whispered her final goodbye. "Remember who you are, Nkosi. Remember your strength." The rhino's eyes flickered open as the sedative faded. He rose unsteadily, shaking his massive head in confusion. Then he caught a scent on the wind. Other rhinos, distant but unmistakable. He looked back at Zuri once, his gaze holding something that transcended the divide between human and animal. Then he turned and moved toward his new beginning, each step more confident than the last. Zuri watched until he disappeared into the golden grass, becoming part of the landscape once more. Her work wasn't finished. There would always be more orphans, more wounds to heal. But Nkosi's journey from terrified calf to magnificent bull had changed something fundamental in her understanding of resilience. Some bonds, she realized, need no words to endure. They simply exist, connecting different worlds through the universal language of compassion. And somewhere in the heart of the savannah, Nkosi carried that truth with him. If you enjoyed, then watch our next video shown on screen.